I got me still.
Okay, cool. So we're now live. It's
Cool.
it's baking ball for some of us anyway. Honestly, it actually does feel about 30 degrees in my living room.
Yeah.
And I didn't really notice Romaro's got it all zipped up until now, and you're actually making me even more hot now.
All zipped up. I've got 3 layers on underneath this, you know. 3 layers.
You're going to trigger everyone on the podcast with like the levels of clothing now. Like, you know what I mean? It's going to turn into Jay's big argument about heat.
But Dan, honestly, what is wrong with them? Because are they not making you feel hot by the way they're dressed?
Mate, I'm sweating for them, bruv. Like, I'm boiling.
I'm about to run and get socks.
It's hot. It's muggy heat. It's like proper muggy.
You're getting third-hand sweat.
Now, have you got like, hey, you know what it is? They got a green screen behind them, yeah, and they're like in some next country. Do you know what I mean? You're not in the UK, blood.
Nah, they're not in the UK. No way.
No way.
No way.
I feel ostracized.
Oh, sorry. Let's wheel and come again. Cool. So we're all live. We've all got people watching our faces. Hello, people. Yeah, and welcome to another episode of Jay's Big Chat with me, your host, Jermaine, aka Jay. And joining me to talk about the big topic that is stereotypes, we have Yoko, Danny, Romario, and Alex. Hello, people.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk stereotypes today. And I feel like stereotypes gonna lead into a couple of little side topics that we can probably go into, and then if we think it's big enough, we can come again with that topic. So I guess the reason why I kind of wanted to do stereotypes today is because I've had several conversations with individuals over the years, and stereotypes just seem to be a thing that sticks, you know. It's a thing that actually rules the way that people view other people, treat other people. And it's not necessarily always a negative thing, nor is it a positive thing. So we're here to discuss all attributes pertaining to stereotypes. So we'll be covering everything from our own personal stories to hearsays and our own points of views. And if you've got any facts, feel free to chat them in. So yeah, let's dive straight in. Let's do stereotypes. What first comes to mind when we hear the word stereotypes then?
Judgment.
Yeah, straight away judgmental. Like just judgment immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so stereotype, judgment, and is that negative thing? Is that negative judgment?
I think it honestly it depends on the obviously on the individual who's judging the person, and then I also think it depends on. See, it's hard. This is a weird one because it's hard to say things about being judgmental, bruv. You know what I mean? It also depends on the individual they're judging, if it's negative or positive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, imagine, I don't know, you see someone walking down the street, yeah, looking booky with a balaclava on.
Yeah.
You're not going to give him a positive judgment, or she, are you?
Okay. True.
I don't know. For me, it's hard to put a positive spin on stereotypes for me. Like, I just find anything that is to do with stereotypes normally has some form of judgment in it, but it's judged on a past experience. Okay. So it's like putting everyone in that box that looks that way or acts that same way. But I think someone could act or look that way. So like Danny just said that about obviously someone looking that way. Someone could look that way, but for me, it's like under the skin or behind the clothes or whatever it is, they're a different person.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So it's like that's why I find it hard to sometimes put a positive spin on the stereotype. Yeah, it's normally based on their experience of that type of individual or that person.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. I find it hard sometimes.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, like, stereotypes, the thing that's so dangerous about them, though, is that it's not even sometimes your past experience. Yeah. Like, a lot racial
Exactly.
stereotypes come from parents and grandparents. Like
Yeah,
that's what's so dangerous about them. It doesn't even have to be your experience.
definitely.
That's also
It could get passed down.
Exactly,
think-
like they're dangerous.
Unfortunately, like sorry, I'm going to say your name wrong. Like Romario.
Romario, yeah, you got it.
Mario, there we go. Like Romario said, I feel like there is unfortunately more of a negative judgment with stereotypes than positive. Unfortunately, I don't think it's ever really positive in it because
Okay,
it's,
let me kick.
I don't
Go
know.
on, Yoko, and then I'll chuck something in.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic for me because there's a lot of different ways to view it. There's a lot of different perspectives on this, and I think I always like content, like you know me. I always like to put things in the best context I can. I think that there's two things that happened in tandem that give stereotypes a negative effect, if you like. I think prior in in older times, I think that there was less of a globalization, and there were people living in pockets in specific areas. They had particular ways of doing things. They had cultures which were consistent with who they were, where they lived, what they did. And I think that led to more behavioral consistency.
Yeah.
So then when one group meets another group, there are certain consistencies that they can point out. And information like that, before it could be, maybe now we'd view that as a preconception or a stereotype, but I think that there was a time where that was just viewed as understanding differences between people. I think now that we're moving into an era where we've got so much globalization, so much travel, so much intermingling between different cultures, some of those consistencies aren't necessarily the same anymore. So attributing sort of an archetype to someone right now could be very inaccurate, and people sort of quite closely attached to their identities.
So, okay, based on
that
point that you just said there, right? Because obviously, Alex mentioned the fact that it could be a generation thing, and I think it kind of intertwines with what you're saying, because of course, way long ago, of course, this, as you mentioned, this was the case about like living in different pockets and doing things, as smaller sort of civilizations. But it's been a long time now since people have been sort of mingling and intertwining and stuff. So again, it does lead back to generations worth of stereotyping.
I think so. I think that's valid. I think that even though I think that there are some persisting characteristics that can be attributed to certain cultures. But I do think that a lot of stuff has changed.
When we say stereotypes, like based on a specific culture or like a race or something like that, is it always like, are we talking positive or negative stereotype?
Well, okay, let me chuck this in, and I guess this will open up for more personal sort of things. And again, we're talking about culture, we're talking about sex, we're talking about just whatever, just any type of stereotype. So I've been told on a few occasions, oh yeah, you can cook, can't you, because you're from the Caribbean. That's obviously they've stereotyped me as a Caribbean, so that immediately means that I can cook. But then I'll answer and say, yeah, I can cook actually, because my mom taught me, and because I love to experiment with food and so forth, trial and error and whatnot. But I don't know if it's because I'm Caribbean why I can cook. So I've got a couple more that I'll chuck in, but that's just for me. But I didn't really take that as a negative. I took that maybe based on this person or these people, their experience of being around Caribbean people, and maybe the majority of them can cook in terms of maybe they've had their food and thought, oh yeah, no, this is nice. So maybe that's been their experience.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like the first thing that came to my head when I heard you say that was, to me, that person that said that has a Caribbean friend, has gone to the house for food, had really good food, and now puts Caribbean and good food together. So every single person that's Caribbean makes really good food.
Yeah.
But
But it is that, I would challenge that and say, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but then say you can't cook, and then you're like, oh, I'm a Caribbean person, you can't cook, and it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be able to cook, like.
I think it's more like someone outside of your culture trying to let you know that they have an appreciation, or at least understand a little bit about your background more so. I find like probably as like a white person, we try to do that a little bit sometimes and be like, oh yeah, I know a little bit about this culture, I know a little bit, and sometimes we will say stuff like that, just assuming maybe.
I've got a question.
It's not necessarily negative.
On that. I've got a question on that quickly, like. Just obviously we're with different cultures here. For your own culture, how do you feel like about that? Like obviously in terms of someone latching onto it could be a positive stereotype, but using that as a kind of like a conversation starter or a like something that they might perceive to know about your culture. Like how do you take that as like someone of that culture?
So because like I'm Spanish and Moroccan and like a Muslim as well, so a lot of people, that happens on different levels, but Spanish, for example, lots of people know Spain, right? So the first thing they'll start saying is like, oh, you lot all have a siesta, you're all a bit, you're all a bit lazy in the south, aren't you, or something like that. And it's like,
wait. So that's, just to clarify, that's not true.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, you have a siesta, don't you? You all have like a nap in the afternoon, and then you're all. It's like, well, no, we don't actually. We all.
All right, so just to clear that up.
Yeah, but it's not true. And the thing is, people will be like, oh, you got it so easy in Spain. Spain actually is not what it looks like. It's a lovely place to visit, but it's very different. It's not easy to live there because everything is just done the Spanish way, in a very old way. But people always go, you shouldn't be here. You should live in Spain. That's like a stereotype, assuming Spain's an amazing place to live.
Yeah,
it's not always the case.
Marbella's all right though. Marbella is okay.
It's okay, but that's because it's Anglified. It's set up to deal with having people. Rest of I grew up in a very Spanish area. It's not. It's quite. It's like how England was maybe 40 years ago. The mentality in some things, it's quite. They're not too open about women doing things in some cases. It can be a bit, old.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think the reason why I asked that was mainly because I think a positive comment or positive stereotype, what we might perceive to be a positive stereotype, can also sometimes come off as being like, all right, so I'll give you an example. We might say Jamaican people can run, they can sprint. That's a positive stereotype, but it's like you're putting me in a box now of I can only run, or we know you to run. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, am I just entertainment for you guys? Or
is this where the thing comes in? Where so based on a stereotype, right? And if you don't match up to that stereotype, so again, if you're a woman and someone says, "Oh, you're doing that," that's a man's. Though men normally do that, right? Or as you said, Jamaicans, runners. Oh, so then if you don't run, or if you can't, or if you're not a sprinter, then does that not make you a Jamaican? Do you know what I mean? Because I've heard certain things, being said like, "Oh, you're not a real whatever because you don't do this or you don't act like that." You know?
Exactly.
You know what's interesting?
That's where a positive stereotype can be flipped, because it is a positive comment that you're making that Jamaicans can run, or whatever it is. Like, I don't know, whatever stereotype you choose to think of, it's a positive stereotype, but it's like, well, you're just kind of putting me in that box and categorizing me as that one thing, and I can do 10 other things. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where it kind of gets a bit tricky for me.
What are you saying, Yoko?
Yeah, I was saying, you triggered something when you said you're not a real this. Because,
oh, what did they say to you? What did they say?
Go ahead, man.
What they said to me,
yeah, what did they say?
Yeah, well, there's been lots of things over the years, but the one I get a lot, right, is when I introduce myself, I tell people my name, and they say like, "What kind of a name is that?"
Yeah,
and they'll say,
so rude.
You know what I mean?
The answer is this instantly. It's a better name than yours. That's the answer.
It's not my place to say that, but
Yeah.
I like it. And the thing is,
Tell
just
them where
like,
to go instantly, mate.
well, this is it.
That
You know
is
what's interesting?
so rude.
You know what's interesting? It's typically people from adjacent cultures to mine that respond that way. Like, I don't think I've ever had any white person say that to me ever in my life.
Oh, really?
Like, what kind of a name is that? Is it
It would be
only
gross, to be honest, because you can't really say that to someone, can you? I mean,
well, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's just interesting because there's two different levels of stereotyping, I guess. One is like an irritation in terms of when I'm trying to engage with people and they have all these stereotypes.
Yeah.
And that's just the product of a narrow-minded person.
True.
They engage that with stereotypes. They also engage that in other ways. But I think the other way, or the other method that stereotyping has an impact on people is when it's in the minds of people with power.
Yeah.
Stereotyping wasn't necessarily a particularly big issue until racism was created. With hand in hand with racism, then it has the impact to determine people's lives, and what they can become and what they can't become, what they can and can't do. I think when stereotypes were just stereotypes, you can just dismiss a stereotype just by being who you are, which is different from what the norm is, and then everybody would learn something. And happy days. You know what I mean? I think now, you know, there are these minds that can sort of dictate what you can become, and you have to substantiate yourself in certain ways according to who you're thought to be. You know?
Yeah, but I think like in this
People are
day and
weirded out
age,
when I say I love flowers.
you've got to kind of question as well, because like you said, it used to be a way to identify the people in other cultures, but I think in 2020 we're so mixed, like was mentioned earlier, and we're aware of that it's negative. Like stereotyping usually is more a reflection on you than the other person, because if I look at someone and I automatically think something racist or biased, that's actually more a reflection on how I think, what kind of person I am, than that person.
So someone's stereotype, or I guess stereotyping a person. Are some stereotypes true?
I think so.
Are some stereotypes based on facts?
I think all stereotypes are based on some form of experience, and some stereotypes are based on some kind of
that's deeper
bigotry.
I think, all right, the way I look at it is like this, right? And it could go, I think you're either going to make sense of this or you're not going to make sense of this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the way I think of it is like this. If the way I break down things in my brain from past experiences, put it like this: there's people like me who look like me and act like me. Maybe not the same as me, but they do it like that, and they break things down in their brain like me. So was your question if it's true stereotypes?
Yeah.
So if there's people that look like me, talk like me, and walk like me, if someone automatically stereotypes me, that means there's going to be other people who are very similar to me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think everyone has people that are very similar. Like you can almost see other people's traits. Like you can, if you take, I don't know, you take 100 people, yeah. If you talk to those 100 people, you're going to see people that you know previously with similar traits in those people.
Yeah.
And they could be part of the same stereotype.
Yeah.
That you've witnessed in that previous person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think some stereotypes are, you know, to a degree, probably are true. That's not just, but then the whole point of being judgmental and stereotyping people, is like a whole different discussion, because you could stereotype that person, then they might not be like that, but they could be like that.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to.
So so basically, I had an ex-colleague, and he would have been, I'd say maybe in his like mid-40s, right, late 40s, and he unfortunately got mugged a couple of years back, and it was describing the person who mugged him. The attacker was black, and you know, he gave me the whole description, and because of that experience, anyone that kind of fit the description, you know, like hooded up and whatnot, he gets anxious, and then he starts instantly, you know, he starts instantly becoming fearful, and then judging this person, and you know, in this manner, to say, oh, you know, this reminds me of a situation, I feel like I'm going to get mugged here.
Yeah.
Now, in a situation like that, like what's your opinion? Because I know, Mari, when you started, you said you know you can't put everyone under the same sort of.
I think that I'll bring in like an example, a recent example of that. Actually, it was everyone knows what happened with Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of exactly what you're talking about. Where
am I missing something? What happened with Liam Neeson?
So Liam Neeson, I'll just explain quickly. I don't want to. This is me just
a quick one.
From what I remember. Yeah, from what I remember.
Quick one.
Something happened to one of Liam Neeson's. Was it his friend or family member?
Yeah, it was a close female friend, and she basically got attacked. I think attacked or
attacked. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear about this actually.
Yeah, attacked by it was a black male, I believe.
Yeah.
So Liam Neeson went out one. I think it was like not too long after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he openly said like, "Oh, I'm gonna." What? Alex, can you remind me? Because you put you might.
Yeah, it was like basically he said not the first reaction was to like automatically assume all of them were like that, and then he deliberately kind of went out sort of looking for problems, like looking for issues in the street, just like the first kind of black man he could find who was a bit iffy. So and then he kind of clocked his behaviour. But
yeah, and
you know
then
what I mean?
I think he openly said on like live TV or something like
yeah,
he went out. Yeah, looking for a black so and so. Like that's what he openly said like on TV. It was like, I went out to look for that for a black so and so. So that was kind of like speaking on obviously what we just touched on with it is with that, it's like you had an experience or a family member or someone you know had an experience, but you kind of put everyone that looks like that in the same box basically. And yeah, it's like, all right, I'm gonna go out and see, like, look for anyone that looks like that, and they're gonna be held accountable in the same way. I think that's where it's kind of hard to, it's tricky.
Unfortunately, like, sorry, with Jermaine, with what happened with your colleague, I think it's a fear thing, man. You know, I think
it is a fear thing.
It doesn't even need to be like, if the person could be white, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
If that set, I think it's more of like a vibe. If it sets off the same vibe and triggers the same thoughts, to me, that's still, he's still going to get the same anxiety.
No, I
There's
don't
no
think,
way.
no, I don't know. I think, unfortunately, you know, and this goes for a lot of conversations. Media is a massive influence on societies globally, and what the media portrays of women, men, any ethnicity, religion, you know, ways of life, a lot of people take this as gospel. So you may have two or three misbehaved kids being shown on TV, and that will have a stereotype of, oh, if I want a life, I can't have kids because they're just too much to handle, you know. Or if I want, you know, you might watch a movie and you know, it may be, oh yeah, I want to date, or based on the movies, what you've been seeing, you hear things like, you know, black men are the ones to date because of the size of certain things, and it's like, do you know what I mean? And stereotypes like that would then be taken seriously by individuals. Do you know?
Based on what the media pushed.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the media paints like this picture, especially around black individuals, that they're a certain way, right? And usually white people are very quick to believe it. But who actually has a history of violence and stuff? It's usually white people, especially towards black people. But black people do not follow suit in that stereotype towards us. I'm sure there's, you know, jokes and things like that, but the same fear that some white people have towards blacks, just off the back of silly stereotypes in the media, after everything white people have actually done to the black community, they aren't like that to us though. They don't hold the same like level of being begrudged and not wanting to deal with us that white people do towards blacks.
Nah,
so again, like,
I've got to interrupt there hardcore. So like, I'm coming in with like, yeah, I mean, but this is, I think the media obviously show us what they want us to see,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, like, I don't want to say this the wrong way. Obviously, with the whole like Black Lives Matter thing and what happened was absolutely terrible. But I know there's also like it does go both ways. There's obviously the racists from the white to the black, and then there's black people who are racist to white people. But unfortunately, some of this stuff doesn't get shown. Like I'm originally from South Africa, Johannesburg, obviously one of the most craziest, corrupt country in the world. And there are people getting shot out there, white innocent people for no reason. You know, it's racist attacks all over the show. White to black, black to white. It's just a racial war, you know. But you won't see, like most of the time, you won't see necessarily the attacks on the white people. You just won't see it. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but the fact is you won't see it. I know people, you know, who have had to go through traumatic things, man. You know, who are complete innocent people, both black and white. They've from both races had to go completely through things that weren't deserved. Innocent people. So, you know, that is a hard one.
I think it's about which acts have a basis and which acts are baseless. I'm not really going to go too much into sort of the history of things because I think that would lead us down a different route, a different path to what we're currently discussing. But I think in totality, I do think that I do make a distinction between violence and retaliation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do make that distinction. In terms of the example that you were talking about at the beginning, though, Jermaine, in terms of seeing that sort of stereotyped that stereotyped incident where you sort of encounter someone on the street and they might look brother like me, he's got his hood up and everything, and you know they're walking down the street and it's a dark night and that kind of thing. That is a weird one. That is a weird one.
That's the thing. Let's be honest. Yeah, we've all walked outside a house past 10 or 12 o'clock down some booky roads and like the ends or whatever. Could be a white person, a black person, an Asian person, a Chinese person. If they've got their hood up and they're with other people,
I'm gonna be real.
I'm gonna be real with you.
I'm gonna be real as well. Go
on,
you go
first. I'll go.
You be real first.
No, I'm gonna be real with you. I've seen guys like that, and I've dropped a £10 note on the floor and they've picked it up and given it to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I've seen guys like that at 1 a.m, like hooded up, whatever, and they've 100%. Seen you dropped that, yo, here, blah blah blah, and it's like cool, bless, thank you.
No, I'm saying it was a tricky one. Yeah, sorry, I was saying it was a tricky one, not necessarily because I agree with the idea that somebody's garments or wearing a hood over your head can tell you how dangerous a person is.
I think
unfortunately, that's not necessarily what I'm saying.
I think no, I hear you, but I think unfortunately, and I'm victim of this as well, right? I've been made to look at stereotypes, you know, and believe them, right? Now it's for me to kind of unlearn these stereotypes, you know, especially the ones that definitely aren't true or have no facts surrounding them. Now, I've been made to think that and this was growing up, right? If I was ever to get, if I was surrounded by 5, 10 black guys hooded up, right? Then I should basically say my prayers. That's the end of it, right? Now, if I was surrounded by 10 white boys, right? I should fight because, you know, I could take them. Now, that's what I was growing up. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mario, I don't know if you or Yoko, I don't know if you've got, and again, Danny, I don't know if you've got come across this, right? Where it's almost seemed that I can't quite understand when it started, but it was that the black boys were more dangerous than the white boys. But I've seen, to be honest, and again, it was an age thing. It was, oh, you see the 18, 17-year-old boys, they will mess you up. But I've come to realize, listen, there's some 11 and 12-year-olds that are more dangerous than 17 and 18-year-olds, right?
Mate,
and to flip it on his head, there's some women, there's some girls who completely like shut down any black or white boy or whatever. So it's but again, it's what I was made to believe. So then I would then live my life in that type of way, and then it's kind of unlearning those traits, as you said.
Yeah.
You'll see a hooded guy, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, but then you'll be like, oh yo, you dropped your phone, and it's like, oh thanks, you know. Whereas,
but like, those kind of stereotypes, I guess, for a guy, you have those, but as a woman, for example, I'd say, like, if I was to walk out anywhere, it doesn't matter if he's wearing a shirt, pair of chinos, or a hoodie, if I see a bloke walking on the same street as me and it's dark, I automatically think they're going to try and do something, no matter what 100%. Man it is,
but
no matter who he is, what he looks like. And that's a negative stereotype, because again, you know, that's quite not a nice thing to say, but at the same time, as a woman, what am I supposed to think? I can't not think that.
I think, especially, you know what, it's not even as a woman, I think it's mutual. It's a feeling of I'm uncomfortable, no matter what the situation, the color, whatever. It's a feeling of I'm uncomfortable and I'm not going to risk it.
Yeah, it's just like a fear of, like, I just don't know.
But where's that fear come from?
So when I was 17, I was like raped. So that's why I've got like a fear of, if I'm alone with any man, doesn't matter who it is, walking down the street that I don't know, I automatically go into, they're going to do something. I get my keys in my hand. I get like proper, like freaked out. But they might be the nicest bloke in the world, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, that's just the stereotype I have of something might happen. And it's not fair, because he might be nice, you know.
Sorry.
Would you say, like, some stereotypes are like, could you say one stereotype is worse than another type of stereotype, if that makes sense? So say, like you said, Alex, here, like you said, any man like that you would see, no matter what race, no matter what they look like, no matter what religion, anything, like no matter what, any man. So that was a stereotype on men. So could that be like seen as like not as bad as stereotyping someone's race or religion or something? Like, do you know what I mean? Does that kind of make sense?
It's still, I think there's
bad,
positive and negatives. Like, I think it's still negative to make stereotypes about men or women, or just judge someone in general, right? Because I don't know what that guy's going to do. I might fall over and he might help me and take me to hospital, you know. But I think in general, I think stereotypes against race and sex can be quite dangerous, because there's a pay gap. There's not, in society, off the back of those stereotypes, we don't have equality in 2020. I think those are a lot more dangerous. I do think it's wrong to stereotype randoms, but at the same time, I'd say racial stereotyping is probably worse.
I'm sort of... Say again?
What were you saying?
No, the whole conversation is making me think a couple of things. First of all, Alex, again, sorry to hear that.
That's fine.
The thing that I'm thinking in terms of like stereotyping in general is I kind of like to try and contextualize things. I think there's a difference between saying that like someone is something or what you expect someone to be. I think that with a healthy understanding of what other people have experienced with this type of person before, you will build certain expectations. And I think it will be arguably foolish not to have some understanding of the world, because this is how you learn. This is how you base. You spot patterns. That's how the brain works. It's pattern recognition. And you generate an understanding of how people are and how people behave. I don't think that's a bad thing. But again, I think there's a difference between like saying like, sorry to
interrupt you. That's exactly what I was trying to say like 4 decades ago. What you just said.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I
well put.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll say like I don't think it's a bad thing, but at the same time, it's like there's a difference between saying that like I understand certain patterns and I recognize certain patterns, and to say like, oh, because I've experienced this is what you are, and you cannot be anything else. And then again, the weapon becomes different. In the mind of an employer becomes a weapon. That in the mind of a bypasser on the street or a child becomes very insignificant.
Yeah, because I mean, I you know, we're gonna take a little diversion in a second, and then we'll kind of wheel off from there. But I'd like to think that, based on what you guys have said so far, that there actually are some stereotypes that are true, right? And I guess I can only say they're true because, again, you're talking about patterns, you're talking about the numbers game. So it's almost like people saying, oh, you know, England is a, I don't know, cold and rainy place, because I guess 7 out of 10 times, you know, it rains or it's cold, you know. And that's a stereotype that they've made. They've not necessarily gone and done any research, but maybe the times that they've come and visited England, or maybe the time that they've, you know, whatever they see or whatever they hear is always, oh, so every time I speak to someone who lives in a hotter climate, it's always, oh, it's cold there, isn't it? You know, or it's, or it's always like really rubbish weather or something, you know, and that's.
Sorry, man. I think some stereotypes are also based on the facts that people know.
Yeah.
So they'll see a statistic and they'll automatically. So, for example, a very basic one, they using your, you know, weather, the UK.
Yeah.
They could look at the weather forecast, 5 different countries, UK, you know, Switzerland, Russia, Portugal, and I don't know, somewhere else, and then all of them are sunny apart from UK. So the fact is, oh, UK's all doom and gloom. So that's now their stereotype of the UK, because for 1 week in the UK it's been raining.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So hit me with a couple of stereotypes that you hate hearing. What are some that you hate hearing?
Do you know what? I'll use an extreme one straight away.
Men don't have emotions.
I'm going to use this extreme one straight away. I hate it. It's racist and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Right. You're walking through an airport. You know exactly what I'm going to say now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You all know what I'm going to say now. I don't even have to say it.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want you to say.
I don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
It's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
But at the same time, unfortunately, you know, this is where it's messy, because you try not to judge that person.
Yeah.
You're trying desperately. You're like, don't do it, do not do that. And then you see other things from like the media, and then your brain goes, oh no, but you don't judge that person, but you see what you're being fed.
Oh, of course.
And you're like, so that's one that you see it. You know, you walk through an airport, man. If there's someone in there who reminds you of, let's say, puts a picture in your brain that they might be a specific person.
Yeah.
And I went through the airport once, and this guy was getting searched, you know, and he found it was quite. I was like, why have you got that? But he had a tub of peanut butter in his bag. I was like, listen. Part of me, I was only young, so part of me was like, there best not be no explosives in the peanut butter blood. Because that's a waste of peanut butter, first of all.
Better even some sub-tied peanut butter. What'd you do with that peanut butter?
You do think, why are you taking peanut butter on a plane, brother?
Maybe it was all for the gains. Maybe it was all for the gains.
Gains, mate.
But yeah, but do you know what I mean? So it's a mad one. It is a mad one.
What about the rest of you?
For sure.
What about the rest of you? What other stereotypes do you hate hearing?
I was going to chime in. Yeah, I was going to chime in. It's an interesting one. There seems to be this weird understanding of, or this weird preconception about men and emotions.
Yes.
That irritates me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, especially in my experience, I come from a particular culture where we discipline ourselves, or we discipline ourselves to be able to manage with lots of different types of situations. And often it can come across as not cold, but sort of not necessarily responsive to all of the external influences. But that's not necessarily to say that someone is emotionless. I think one of the most insensitive things that I often hear And to be honest, I heard it from childhood, that sort of
Yeah.
boys or men don't really have emotions, and you know,
Mate,
I think it can be quite destructive, especially for boys.
Of course it can, yeah.
From a
absolutely.
woman's point of view, though, we're kind of led to believe that you don't feel things the same as us. Like I can safely say, not so much now, but when I was younger and I started like dating men and stuff, us girls genuinely kind of think, do they actually have the same emotions? Like, do they know what it is to love someone? Like, even do they know what it's to love someone, you know, or do they feel sad, or do they like, even women, we kind of look at men sometimes and are led to believe that men don't actually have emotion.
I'm not offended by I'm not offended by that. And I do think that there's lots of physiological and
There are.
other things which would suggest that women have a higher spectrum of emotions than their male counterparts. So I'm not offended by that notion whatsoever. I'm fine with that. But it's to the point where you would say that, like, you can't love, or you can't cry, or you can't be offended by things. If I slap you, it's not really gonna, you know, I can disrespect you, you won't really feel too much. Like when you start to infringe upon like people's well-being and emotional and mental well-being,
It's mad,
I think it's a
man.
bit
Like,
heavy.
if you look, this is deep now, but going off like male and like emotional, do you feel this? Do you feel that? Should you cry? Should you die? Like all this stuff. You know, I don't know what the statistic is, but if you look at the statistics, you know, male suicide is like redonkulously high.
Yeah, it's the highest.
And I think there's two problems. Like, I think males are under the impression they have to be this alpha male all the time. Can't feel sad, can't let my emotions out, can't cry, can't speak to people, can't show weakness. I've got to be boss man all the time. It's not like that, because, you know, I really don't care what anyone says. We're all human, yeah, obviously. But there's boys out there that will pretend that there's some next level, can't feel anything. Do you know what I mean? And even they do feel everything. They don't show it, but they do feel it. Yeah. And it does my nutting, because everyone should have, you know, should be aware of how they're feeling and should be able to talk to someone about it. But there's such a stereotype.
I think this goes back to, I know, Romari, you want to say something. I think this goes back to exactly what Romari was saying in the beginning, when you talk about stereotypes and putting people in boxes. Because once again, perfect example of emotions and men, once that stereotype's out there, which it is, and men are aware of it, you then say to yourself, well, I want to be I want to show emotion, right? I don't want to be emotionless, or I don't want to come across. But according to the stereotype box that I'm currently in, right, it dictates that I have to be hard. In a breakup, I can't cry, or you know, in a sad situation, I can't show tears, or I can't show this, or I can't show too much. And because of that bubble, or because of that box, you act accordingly. And it's
what's wrong.
Yeah, of course it is, you know, and it's vice versa. It's women doing certain things, you know, or being in certain trades, like the IT trade. You know, it was never industry. I say it was never an industry where you would see women or females. Like I remember in college, I had, I think, one in my class. It was like one girl in my class.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, yeah, IT just isn't for women. Like, you just wouldn't. And because of, again, these pockets, people don't venture into them as much as they'd want to, because of course they've been blocked out or blocked in.
Yeah. No, definitely.
What were you gonna say, Ryan?
No, I was just gonna say another stereotype. I think for me, two for me. The first one is men are trash. That one really does my head in. Men are trash was trending for a good. Men are trash was a stereotype that really bugged me, man.
I swear it's actually coming back. No.
What's that?
Is it not coming back?
Mate, it's not gone.
Did it ever go away?
I think it's gone.
We have men are trash, and then she belongs in the streets. At least now there's a woman's one. She belongs in the streets now.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least it's a bit more equal now, but still.
Yeah. But you're not trash though. You're just walking to the bus. You know. You're not trash.
At least if you're trash, you can go to bed.
Yeah, but no, the men are trash one really that really got to me. And
why though? Why does that affect you?
It goes. I think it's like, it goes back to kind of like the last stereotype is that we do have emotions. We do a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there is a lot that we do.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh,
You hurt him, innit?
There is a lot that we do.
Oh,
But he made a
That's a
valid
sick
point
ending.
though. But that ties
his
into what
phone
I
died. I
was
bet
saying
his
earlier.
phone died.
Yeah.
But women genuinely don't think that men care or have emotions. That's why some women are like, oh, men are trash. Like men are, they're nothing. You know, like that's why some women have that thing of, because they just genuinely think they're these beings who go about the planet and just do what they want when they want and don't care about anyone else. And obviously that's not true.
But not only that, I think a lot of girls, and I say a lot of boys as well, will base an experience, like a girl will base an experience with a boy, and then suddenly think every single male is a trash person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know
But
loads of
we've all
girls
been with,
that just judge everyone. See, nice, he's a dickhead.
Yeah.
It's the same way. There's loads of nice guys out here, and then you look at the girls. I've been messed over by girls, like not all the time, but I've been messed over.
exactly, yeah.
I
There's
don't
girls
think
out there who mess around.
I don't think every girl should be on the street. I think no, I'm not going to say that.
But you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, and again, this is probably another topic because it does bounce. It does bounce around this topic. When you're talking about stereotypes, you're then talking about being biased, and then this is where unconscious bias comes in, and the rest of it, right? Maybe we'll do a topic on being biased and then being unconscious bias as well, because as you guys have purposely said, if we just go along with the flow based on how things are, you know, so a certain type of people, so you know, like nations. I've heard, oh my gosh, the French are so rude, like, you know, don't go to France, the French are so rude, like, and I've heard, oh, go to this place because the people are just so lovely, they're amazing there, right?
Yeah.
But this, and what we're saying, it is based on experience, but we should not necessarily paint an individual or set of people with the same brush, right?
Here's a very good example to fit in with that. So I'm South African, right? I've been in situations where I said I'm South African. The first question they asked me is, "Are you racist?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
True,
no.
I've seen it. South African girl who worked with me, the first thing like someone asked her was like, "Are you like crazy South African or normal South African?" It was like,
oh wow.
Like, no, I'm not racist actually. I've got loads of black friends, Indian
exactly.
friends, white friends. I've got alien friends. Do you know what I mean? So just like, but it's such an easy one to jump to. I'm South African. Are you racist?
Yeah.
But I've seen it before. That one on South Africans. I've seen it a few times.
Here's one that I do hate, right? Oh, because you're black, you're gonna be late. Now,
what?
If I'm
what? What?
Like black people are always late. Like you guys, I know you guys heard black people.
Oh, Jermaine.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard that one.
I just about made the podcast cut off today, right? So that can put that stereotype.
But the thing is, if I'm late, it's because Jermaine's late. No, I doubt it's because of the color of my skin or my genes. I mean, it's down to my poor time management, right? But
Mario, what you said?
Mario.
Cool, no, I will, speak on this because I think, like, do you know what it is, Jermaine?
Yeah.
We're like West Indian people, Caribbean people, are so laid back and chilled that time is not even a factor in our mind. Like, it will, like, it does not even occur to us that time exists. Like we're so chilled and laid back that we do everything at our own leisure. And
is that the truth? Like always? Because
not for everyone. I mean, me, I'm on point with time most of the time. Like 98% of the time, I'm on time. But that's why I make a real effort to not live up to that stereotype. It's like, but I just see it a lot, and I just put it down to like, if I'm looking at my parents, my grandparents, my family, like they're so chilled and laid back that time just never occurs to them. And it's just like, I don't know if that's that. It's not factual.
It occurs to them when they have an appointment, when they have to be somewhere for a certain time. So it's not, But then again, it comes from the point, and I've heard it. I've been firsthand. Like honestly, I'll be talking to a black friend and be like, yeah, where it's like round the corner. Then like 45 minutes later, they turn up, and to be fair, they didn't say which corner they were around. So it could have been a 45-minute away corner, but I just took around the corner as well, around my corner, you know. Or I'll be there in 5 minutes, and really and truly, you're an hour away. But then I don't think that's too black. Because people say, "Oh yeah, sorry, give me a second," but they don't necessarily mean a second. So literal, you know,
no, I see what you mean.
That's a funny one.
I never heard that one. Never.
Oh,
wow.
No one told you about BMT.
BMT.
I never thought they were.
No one said that.
I've never heard that they're late, man. Like,
Real.
I'm like the latest person I know. Like white people are usually late.
Yeah, but it's fine, honestly. And you've never been told. You'll be like, oh yeah, you're late. Okay, fine, whatever. But as Ramon, you said, you make a conscious decision to be on time, right?
Yeah.
Now, because you don't want to live up to that stereotype. Now,
That's a mad stereotype.
It's the same. Could you imagine like not wanting to be late because you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to this meeting, and they're going to be like, oh, the only black man there is late. Like, do you know what I mean? Could you imagine?
Late. Imagine that's just like mad. You've got to be worried about the time and everything. You've got to be stressing now that you're not like 2 minutes late.
Exactly. And the stereotype that says women can't drive.
Yeah, I mean, look, I used to work in a dealership, right? And the amount of men who used to say, oh, do you want me to get it out the lot for you? And it's like, first of all, no, right? Yeah. No, I got it in there, I can get it out. But no, the amount of men who every day used to be so...
Mario,
I don't agree with the driving thing. It's just for me, can women parallel park? Because that's the only one that I'm like,
No, you know what women's problem is that we're not like men where we probably think of one thing at a time and we take it step by step. Women, we're thinking of millions of things at a time. So when we get to a road or a roundabout, I'm thinking about
that's a stereotype. It's a
stereotype. I'm gonna back Alex right now, to be honest with you, right here. Like the female processing power.
I'm thinking about an argument that I had with my man 2 weeks ago, and when he lied, for example, when I'm going around a roundabout, not always just thinking, oh, there's a car coming. Like sometimes I'll zone out a little bit, and it's not because I'm a bad driver. I'm just thinking of millions of things. I'm thinking, that doesn't make sense.
I'll tell you something real. Like their detective power is second to none. This is serious. This is serious. I was with one of my, like, this was back way back, with my missus at the time. And she had my phone. She was like, you know what, should I go for your text or not, as a joke? And I was like, well, I mean, you can't unlock it anyway. Like my phone's locked, so like you can't go in my phone. She's like, what makes you think I can't unlock your phone? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, that's how you lot get caught. And it's like, how, what?
Yeah, like seriously, we think of like so many things at once, but that's where the driving comes in, because we're not focusing always at the task at hand. We can drive, but we just like kind of go off into like different, thinking of too many things. And that's sometimes why it's kind of like, oh, I've just pulled out in front of someone.
Is that why you guys turn down the volume on your radio when you're parallel parking?
I do, yeah, because no,
Mario. Yeah. They do. If it's too loud, they need to turn it down to see better.
They need to focus.
Yeah.
That's right.
But no, seriously, like,
it
is. There's too many things going on. Men tend to do one thing at once, where women, we're like thinking of lots of different things. I think that's why we get distracted or pull out in front of people or don't indicate and don't.
You lot
should. I mean, okay, but based on what you're saying, you can then be classified as a bad driver then.
Yeah, literally, I was about to say that.
Danny, you can't, because like.
So then, is it a right?
He's had like 4 accidents, and I've only ever had one where I went into the back of a Mini and left a scratch like that because I was looking at my phone.
Yeah, but yeah, but that's the thing. Like, if you're driving, you should be focusing on driving. Like,
but I thought
it sounds dumb, but like, I don't go to a roundabout thinking about some next thing at 4:15 4 years ago.
But I do though. I go in there thinking,
that's why it's bad.
Like I go in there thinking,
that's why it's bad.
We run out of rice. You know what I mean?
Because
like that's what I'm thinking about.
You know what happens? I'm driving along, and a car's doing something funny. I'm just like, oh, that's a women driver, isn't it? And then like,
and it's always
they'll come along, anyway. But no, it's not right. It's not right. But based on what you're saying, you know, it's I don't know.
Right.
Not that we're bad drivers. It's just sometimes we get distracted because we are thinking, oh, there's a kid in the back, or we're on the phone.
Why are you
arguing?
Let's all do a survey. Let's all buy a GoPro and put it on our car. We'll drive around and find everyone that's driving like an absolute melon and report back to the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll do a survey. We'll see what's actually happening in the world. And I guarantee it, probably we're all going to find nutty women doing spinners and a flipping roundabout.
Or old people, because
they're different. All right, from my experience, old people drive safe and slow.
That's it. It's too safe and slow, though.
But that's better than being road rage wheeling. You know what I mean? Right. My previous girlfriend, a long time ago. Yeah, she had the worst road rage ever. Literally, following this girl driving somewhere was literally fast and furious, mate. You're doing like 80 round corners, man.
Yeah.
Like but some girls do not give a shit about anything.
Listen, I know for a fact my sister's watching this, right? And she's a driver, and she's probably fuming right now, going, "What are these guys talking about? I could drive. I'll drive any of them."
But it's true though. Like women can drive, but the thing is, usually we have like kids in the back, or we're on a phone call, or someone's stressing us out, or we know that when we got home, you've got to do the washing, you've got to do. We're just like we think about different stuff, and also sometimes we get a bit more intimidated. I think as well. We don't take the same risks as men. Sometimes I'll be in the car and it's like, let me tell you, if you leave me paralyzed, to my man, I'll say, I'm suing you because those risks you're taking, you should be taking it with me in this car. You don't decide whether I walk or not.
I see girls dashing it through an amber.
Yeah, but like make that decision on your own, innit? Not when you make that decision on your ones, not when you've got your other half in the car. Men do that, isn't it? I'd never put someone in that position if there was my family in the car.
Girls are nuts, I'm telling you.
No, I'll do it myself, like I'm speeding a lot, but let me tell you, not when I've got other people. I'm a bit more risk averse.
Ain't happening.
You know what? In the interest of stopping this beef, I need to bring in the next one.
No, come on.
But you know, one stereotype that comes to mind, that does irritate me as well. And I recently became sensitive to this because I didn't realize what it was before. But I started speaking to like a lot of my friends. They were telling me that they all experience this. But sometimes, if a woman's walking down the street and you try to approach her and you shoot your shot, and she kind of just like dismisses it, she might just have something else to do that day. Like it may not be because like she's not into you, or like because like you didn't shoot your shot properly, so you need to try harder, or it's not a game, or it's not like I need to like polish her back. Like she might just like be busy today. You know what I mean? That difference in expectation, that for men it's like, yeah, you can just be going about your business, but for women, like they're just constantly waiting for someone to speak to them.
True.
You know, it wasn't even in my head, and then like started speaking to some of my friends, were like, raw, that would annoy the hell out of me because I'm a really busy person. People just kept going up to me like all the time in the street, on the train, on the bus, everywhere, trying to talk to me for no reason. For no reason. It's like, to achieve what?
I'm sure Alex has that problem all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
I'm too busy.
I'm too busy.
Sorry,
I'm too
go
busy.
away.
I'm thinking about the rice later.
They brought it back to the roads again.
I tried. You see what I'm saying? I did my best.
But what I'm saying is, like, in general, sometimes you do. Look, sometimes you'll have men come up to you and give you the worst pickup lines, and it will be really kind of like, "Why did you stop me? Like, just why did you stop me?" And then just move on. And then sometimes by that point, you're a little bit short because you've had maybe someone try and talk to you already that week, or someone give you a weird look or whatever. And by that point, maybe, you know, some girls can be like that. I always like feel flattered and be like, you know, sometimes I feel a bit intimidated as well, obviously going back to the thing, but just be flattered and don't be rude. Just be like, look, sorry, mate.
Danny, do you get stopped on the street?
Huh?
Do you get stopped on the street?
No, unfortunately not. I don't spend enough time on the street, mate. I'm
No.
just locked down, tied up in a gym somewhere, you know, smelling like shit. If a woman, a woman approached me in the gym, they're looking, you look like you dragged through like 5 piles of cement with no clothes on. You know what I mean? So no. Although I did have quite a cool experience today, mate. I was outside my garage, and this sounds really, really weird, but I guess this is a stereotype. So I'm outside my garage, just chilling, getting ready to go on a bike ride, do a bit of cardio, you know, got to stay lean. And this family walks past with 2 little kids. Yeah, we're looking at 4 or 5. Yeah. Now I'm standing here in my grey t-shirt. Yeah, being me, not flexing, nothing, just chilling. And this little kid goes, "Wow, he's massive." I was like, "Yeah, I like this."
Like this.
But I have a question for you. Like, obviously, you added me earlier on Insta, right? So I saw your profile.
Yeah.
Do you ever get people make stereotypes about you, about like, oh, maybe you take whatever it is, or you're not all natural, you're not this, you're not that, or you've got rage? Do you ever get people make those about you?
I mean, okay. So for you guys, if you don't know my background, I do love a bit of bodybuilding. That is my life, really. And yeah, I'm open with what I take. I'm open with all that stuff. So that's all cool. But for me, I think a stereotype is mostly from girls, and it will be, oh, he's a bodybuilder and he's got tattoos, therefore he is a dickhead. He must be a dickhead. And it's like, actually, you don't actually know who I am as a person. You're judging me from what you see.
Yeah.
And it's very not. Sometimes it can actually be very hard to explain to a girl that I'm actually not full of myself. I'm actually a nice person, and I don't have roid rage. I don't like beat up my little cat for fun. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think that there is a massive stereotype of bodybuilders, and and steroids as well. There's thousands of stereotypes of steroids, the millions.
Yeah.
The two ones are, oh, he's got a small willy and he's gonna punch me in the face.
Yeah, like you're out of control, kind of, because that's the main one that you always think, other than the small. What's it? Like, they're out of control, they're a danger.
That's what it is, though. That's literally what it is. It's them two. He's a bodybuilder. He's an absolute nutter. He's probably going to go to prison, and he's got tattoos. He deserves to be in a mental home, mate. He's just off the rock, and he's a skinner, mate. Done.
But it's not the case.
Yeah, it's not the case, man. Let me tell you something. Mostly, what you'll find is the bigger the dude is, the nicer the guy is. 100%. Because the serious people who are into bodybuilding we haven't got time to be dickheads. Like, we're too focused on trying to achieve a goal. It's the smaller guys who think they're massive or the sharpest tool.
Yeah.
Who really have no idea what they're doing. And are abusing steroids, therefore are, completely out of order, or they have got tempers. And that's what gives actual bodybuilders really bad representations, because people that don't know what they're doing, or they think they're Billy Big Bollocks. And like I said, the bigger the person normally. I know people that are massive, like 300 pounds huge, and you look at them in the gym and go, like Alex, I promise you would look at them as a girl and go, holy fucking shit, that guy must be a dickhead.
Yeah.
And you speak to them and you actually find out that they're actually really nice people, and they've got really nice hearts, and they genuinely care about humans.
Yeah.
And then you'll have some skinny prick with a man bag on, just with his I be for clobber, and he's a melon. He doesn't care about anyone, doesn't care about you, me, nothing. That's not to say skinny people aren't nice. There's plenty of skinny people that are nicer than everyone.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people will just, I hate it. Stop thinking I'm a prick because I've got tattoos and I'm a skinhead of muscle. It doesn't work like that. Anyway.
I mean, this is, you know what, it's interesting. It's actually so interesting. When you think about it, there's so many stereotypes that you're not even conscious about, You don't even take offense to, because you don't even know that they're stereotypes, So it's definitely an interesting one. So
it's like when men are like to women, they say, "Can you cook?" Like they say, "Oh, can you cook?" or stuff like that. It's kind of like you don't even really think of it as, you just answer, "Yeah, of course I can cook." But unless you sit there and think, well, wait a minute, what do you mean, can you cook? Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't really notice it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the thing with stereotype, it does lead nicely onto you know, being biased, and also I guess having an opinion. Having an opinion on someone before we getting to know them, or as I keep saying, like painting an individual with the same brush. So we're just gonna wrap up now. So like closing remarks, closing sort of whether it's a story or a bit of advice or something. Just hit the viewers with, hit me with. I think my one is, you know, it's for me, a stereotypes can be negative. I can see where certain stereotypes have stemmed from. You know, people say, oh, you give, you know, men a bad name, or you give women a bad name, or you give Caribbean people a bad name because you do this. And then when enough people give such this bad name, it becomes a stereotype. And, you know, a stereotype that I always get hit with is, oh yeah, he's black, so he loves chicken. And I was thinking, yeah, everyone loves chicken. And if you don't love chicken, you don't love chicken. Like there's everyone's got their preference, you know. And it's the truth, you know. You do, and it doesn't bother me because I don't see it as a negative. I'm just like, well, I am black and I do love chickens. I'm not going to read too much into it. But Yoko doesn't eat chicken and he's black, so I mean, you know, he definitely, what does that mean? He's not. Does that mean he's not black? So,
nah, yeah, well, you know, you tell me.
Maybe
you tell me, like.
But yeah,
That's
go
it.
on. What do you guys want to leave? What do you guys want to leave the viewers with?
Do you want me to run it? Do you want me to say?
Yeah.
I'll go. So, I mean, first of all, my advice would be, there's a couple different points I want to make. The first one is to the people that would stereotype someone.
Yeah.
Try not to be so judgmental of the people that you don't know very much about. I understand that sometimes it can be hard to not be judgmental due to experiences, but if that was you being judged, you wouldn't want to be judged. So try and put a level balance between how you would want to be. How would you want to be? You know, would you want to be judged? Yes or no? The answer is definitely no. Yeah. You know, unless it's in a positive way, you don't want to be judged. So please, you know, don't be different. Don't go to the stereotypes. Give everyone a shot. You know, don't paint people with the same brush, and just be a good human, because that's very, very hard these days. Secondly, to the people that are being judged, stereotyped, don't be afraid to. First of all, don't change your appearance or your personality to fit in with others' judgment of you.
Yeah.
Do you? If people don't like it or they want to make judgment, let them make the judgment, and just show them differently. You know, don't change your whole characteristic or change the food you eat or change how you look because to suit other people, because you can't live this life trying to make everyone happy. And also, don't be afraid to actually voice your opinion and kind of show that you're not the stereotype they're putting you into.
Yeah.
And again, if they, you know, I think this is also important. Don't retaliate.
Yeah.
You know, just show them that you're complete opposite to what they're putting you in if you are. But yeah, other than that, just stay positive, be a good person, and that's the bottom line from me.
Sweet. Who's carrying on?
Come on.
Yeah, pretty similar to that, really, to that opinion. I was just going to say pretty much, you know, I think if you do find yourself judging people, kind of just question why. You know, you have that stereotype, like, where did it come from? Is it accurate? Is it even relevant, I guess? And kind of figure out where it came from, you know, because I think a lot of trying to find equality in the future and making these actual changes do come from us, like questioning our behaviours and our thoughts and where they come from. And also, if someone is, I guess, in that situation where you are kind of being challenged and someone's putting that stereotype on you, use it as a chance to like educate that person, because they might genuinely just not know or have had anyone around them to kind of say, well, actually, no, you can't say that, or that's not necessarily true. So just maybe turn it into a positive and use it as a way to actually change someone's mind. I guess that's what I can say.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's actually, you know, that's actually so true. You know, because at the end of the day, we went back and said that this is a generation thing, and until you stop for a minute and think consciously about, you know, the way that you're perceiving someone or judging someone, you can just go along with the flow, and then you know you're now part of this system of stereotyping. And again, it's not always negative stereotypes, but then again, even some positive stereotypes, as we said, can be misleading, and also put you in a box. But yeah, what are you saying, Yoko?
Yeah, I don't really think that. I suppose I'll just leave it with a couple of thoughts. For me, I tend not to really engage with the idea of stereotypes. I try to engage people on the basis of culture and subculture, and within culture, there are patterns which are identifiable. And it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody can't be different from what you might expect. I think there's a difference between putting somebody in a box and saying and trying to tell them who they are, and understanding where someone is coming from, and on that basis, what maybe to expect from them. Just like with your mugging example, you know, you saw somebody in a particular position, he was hooded, he looked a bit like me, but if you understand that subculture, you would understand that the mannerisms and the way he's standing, and he's not really interested in you right now. He's more interested in whatever he's doing or whatever he's talking to, or he doesn't even look like he's erratic. So I think it's more so about the pursuit to understand culture and understand the root of words. I think to stereotype, it might be slightly, it can be bigoted if used incorrectly, but I think it's nothing more than a series of expectations. And I think judgment on that basis is nothing more than being able to discern, being able to see and being able to judge and understand something, but they can be used incorrectly and negatively. So I think that for me, the emphasis has always been to try and understand the root of things and the root of words and the proper context in which things can be used. And if you're being honest and genuine and you have well intentions, you can get to the root of these things. Even people who have grown up with incorrect racist ideas, or incorrect cultural ideas, following that wholeheartedly and honestly, even if they express it in a way which is disrespectful and they ask the honest questions, they can learn. You know, I think it's more the people who suffer from these things that can't bend from their ways are those who don't want to. Yeah.
I mean, you can't just leave us with deep stuff like that, because that's.
I know, I was thinking. I was probably listening. He's got a very relaxing voice.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
podcast stuff. Like,
this is another hour for sure. But we definitely will do a carry on to this, because it's definitely, when you have a conversation like this, it's definitely thought provoking, and to even to myself. You know, thinking, wait, do I actually like put people in stereotype bubbles? And I do, and it's subconscious, you know, 99% of the times, but it is about being conscious, because I like what you guys are saying. Like, you have to think about how it feels on the other, you know, on the other side, and it's about individuals. I love it, honestly. You've got patterns, but for sure, you don't have to, just because you're 6'5" doesn't mean that you're a baller. In fact, you might hate basketball. Everyone looking at, that's another one. I used to get that so often. It's like, how
do you play basketball?
Do you play basketball? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't play basketball, not just because I'm taught. In fact, I hated basketball, you know?
That's wild. I didn't expect that. But you know what's funny? You know, like, I was always really short. I was much shorter than I am now, in terms of, like, in average to my height. So I was always like the shortest one in the class. And I played tons of basketball. Everybody like knew me for that, like for high school, college, everything. And then when I got to like work, I was like, oh yeah, I used to play a lot of basketball. People were like, what, you? Like,
Mate,
who are you?
I tell people I play basketball, mate.
Yeah, see.
And they're like, you, bro. You can't play basketball. You're white. I'm like,
yeah. And then it's strange, isn't it? Because then that leads down another road.
Bruv, white boys can't jump.
White boys can't jump. Wait, so is that not true?
Listen, send me your location right now. I'll come take. Hey, I'll come.
He's gonna come and dunk on you.
Now. Send location.
Wait, hold on. Let's slow down with fighting
play
words.
Ball on that with you, man. Let's go.
Wait a minute.
No, waiting around. Let's go.
Hold on.
Oh, time out now.
Because like
Depends.
they be fighting words.
Some of them can jump far, and then some can jump high.
I agree with that.
No, I do. But this is when you look. This is when it gets serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at the NBA. Everyone that's the best player is black.
Yeah, but the thing is, like in general, black athletes, because they have a more they have either fast twitching or slow twitching, don't they? Muscles, so they either are better at one particular kind of sport or another.
Well, that's not what I heard. I heard it's because the blacks had to run away from tigers and lions and all this sort of stuff.
I was like, no, but
Wakanda.
White athletes tend to have more of a mix. I think this is what I've been told. I obviously don't know.
But the thing is, of course, with everything, there's so much science that goes into it.
I will say this now, though.
Yeah.
I do think the level and the standard of athlete in black males is higher than I genuinely think that.
Yeah, it is pretty.
Honestly, if I look in my sport, bodybuilding, if I look all the best bodybuilders in the world, they're all black.
Yeah.
That's how they're exceptional athletes.
I mean, when there's facts to prove this, it's not a stereotype, is it? It's facts.
That's exactly. So it's mad now.
Yeah. But guys, honestly, I think people are tired of our faces and our voices right now.
I know.
Let's kick them out of here. Let's say goodbye, and then we can continue if we want to. But thank you guys very much for joining me. Romario did send a message to say, unfortunately, he had to go, but he enjoyed the chat, and he's definitely down for part 2. So I will hit you guys up for part 2. For those who are watching, if you've got any questions based on stereotypes, and of course leading into bias and unconscious bias, do feel free to either get in contact with myself or any one of these lovely people. Their apps and social and the rest of it will be in the description. But guys, honestly, lovely chatting to you guys. Yeah, a lot of thought-provoking things for us to go ahead with, and I'm sure the viewers will think the same. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me on another episode of Jay's Big Chat.
Bye.
We're still live, but look who wants to say hello.
That's the sign off right there.
Say hi.
Give me a bicep. Woo.
Say bye. Say bye. Say bye. Honestly, just show you up all the time. Like, why?
Hi.
All right. We're out of there.